Welcome to the Confidence Through Health podcast. My name is Jerry Snyder. As a health, wellness, and sports performance coach, my goal each week is to bring you experts to help you take control of your health and build your self-confidence. Thanks for including me today on your journey to better health. I'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, All In Health and Wellness. If you're looking for a health coach, you're looking for a sports performance coach, you're looking for nutrition guidance, like for instance, a meal-by-meal plan that will help you understand how to eat. It will teach you how to eat, and it will give your body, your cells, the proper nutrition to feel great and be able to perform at your best, not just physically, but also emotionally and mentally. If you're looking for those things, you're looking for the key to improve your sports performance, both from a nutrition standpoint and an exercise physical standpoint and a mental standpoint as you approach your athletic event. All In Health and Wellness is able to help in these areas. Go to allinhealthandwellness.com and you'll find the contact information for how to get in touch with them and get started on the plan that will improve your life. So I want to thank you, Dr. Rocco, for being a guest on the Confidence Through Health podcast.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And so one of the things that we were talking about a little bit before, but you're passionate about is helping people not just age, but age well. And your book is entitled Growing Younger, which is, sort of like makes you think about it like, okay, wait, how can I get younger if I'm aging? But there really is a difference between chronological age and what's happening in your body, right?
Yes, yes. And I love that you've read into that title a little bit because the beauty of that title is supposed to be positive and uplifting about aging, not to fear it.
Yeah.
But growing younger, it's a verb. Okay.
Mhm.
We have to do our responsibility to get those results, and because you're in the same kind of field of regenerative medicine and looking at how we can heal people. So we have to look at it. Are we degenerating every day or regenerating? So growing younger means that like we could regenerate and there's hope and that we can feel better than we did in our 30s, believe it or not, or like whenever we had our pause in our healing.
Mhm. Well, and that's, and you say that you ask anybody who's, I'm 50, you ask anybody who's really like probably over 40, because that's just sort of the number in our society of like, okay, once you reach this, it's all downhill, right?
Yes.
You ask anybody and they'll tell you like, oh, in my mind, I'm still this age, whether it's like 18 or 22 or, but it's usually younger than 30. And it's like,
Yeah.
that's what my mind thinks I'm capable of doing, whether it's physically or mentally or, and, but if that's what our mind thinks, why does our body have to age so much faster?
Because, honestly, that's a great question. And we don't take care of ourselves enough. We don't pause our body. We don't recharge it.
Yeah.
See, our brain is so dynamic. It gets lots of oxygen. Our body prioritizes delivering oxygen to our brain first and our heart. And, we can heal if we sleep.
Yeah.
And our brain is on survival mode. Our body, we don't think about like, my gosh, taking magnesium, relaxing our muscles. We don't think about electrolytes and hydration. We don't think about how hormones regenerate and creating. So there's so many things that we neglect. We just expect our brain, because God put it on top of our body for a reason. So it's supposed to influence our whole body, right?
Yeah.
But we have to do our part to help it heal. And so I think that's why, a lot of us that feel like 27 or 23, we feel that way because we put the effort in recharging our body, not just our brain.
Yeah.
So it's a effort and it is work. Just like you save money for retirement, we have to save our body for retirement. Right. So it takes effort and thought, and it's very intentional. So when people say my body's not keeping up with my brain, well, what are you doing? What effort are you putting in daily? Little things matter over time.
Yeah. Well, and I love that thought process because it's true. It's intentional. It's not something, in being an athlete myself, and people ask, I wish I had your discipline. I wish I had your this. And I'm like, okay, but it's intentional. Like I plan my day around I need to do these things because this is important to me,
Yes, yes.
and it doesn't mean that other things are not as important. It just means that if I don't get this in, I'm not going to get the result that I want down the road.
Well, you said the magic keyword discipline. It's
Mhm.
not wishing it, it's
Right.
doing it. You know,
Yeah.
people can think all they want, it's useless.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's why the thought starts in the brain, but the body delivers the action. So people do not put it into action. Life is a verb. Okay. It's people got to move. And that's why a lot of people that just do it, it's because we've been through the consequence of not doing it. Right,
Yeah.
you were telling about your loss of your grandma, and it's so sad.
Yeah.
And you want to know that that doesn't happen to you. Like you don't lose your life to,
Right.
heart disease, and you intentionally are disciplined because that motivates you to go through it. Some of us, we
Right.
have to go through pain
Hmm.
to make that change and be stay disciplined because we know the
Yeah.
consequence, where other
Yeah.
people might not have the consequence effect,
Right.
and they push the limits.
Mhm. Well, and that's where so many of us need to look and pay attention to the mentors ahead of us that have done it, right? And you hear that in business all the time. If you start your own business, you're an entrepreneur, or if you're moving up into middle management and you're getting there, and people will always say, okay, find a mentor who can teach you the mistakes so that you don't have to go through those, right? They can help you find the shortcuts to make sure that you don't have the same mistakes that like everybody else goes through. Like
Yep.
avoid those pitfalls. They're out there. The people that have been through them know them. Well, that's the same thing with our bodies, right? Like we should be looking to not just what the next diet fad is or what the next this is or that is, but it's like go find the person who's 65 and healthy and is not on medications and is not,
Right.
doing all these things, still going to the doctor and getting checkups to make sure that everything's well, but like go find that person and say, if you're 30 and say, how do I do it? What did you do? And you're probably going to hear, well, I exercised every day. I watched what I ate. I was very intentional about these things. It didn't just happen.
Exactly. And people, we're surrounded by miracles. We're surrounded by people that done it. And I think that enough people don't have those conversations enough. Like back in the day, I mean, when I was growing up, it's like people had conversations like with people. Now
Mm-hmm.
people have conversations with the internet. It's so sad.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even conversations. They're just constantly searching, and
Yeah.
then they don't stop, but like act on it. If you
Yeah.
found something that you love, act on it. It's the same thing. So it's like to interviewing 80 people, and like what did you take out of it? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So
Yeah.
so I think like we're in an age where people's mindset is on overdrive. And like you said, we have examples around us. We're surrounded by it. Whether you want to read a book, whether
Yeah.
you want to find a life mentor, whether you listen to a podcast like yours, like
Mhm.
there are means that people just have to put into action.
Right. And that's a big step of it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the action piece a lot of times comes down to hormone balance in your body and the ability to believe in yourself because a lot of that comes from hormones and understanding that okay, it's going to be it might be painful, whether it's physical or just stepping out of your comfort zone pain type of pain. But if we're not balanced, we're fighting a battle against ourselves, right?
Yes, yes. People, we talk about depression and anxiety and that motivation. Motivation means
Mhm.
like enthusiasm means the influence in you. With enthuse means God in you coming
Mhm.
out.
Yeah.
So I tell people like, how do you get that internal drive? How do you get motivated? Well, it starts with energy and it should
Mhm.
be positive. So energy comes from action,
Right.
movement.
Right.
So, like, you're an athlete. Like, I've always been in sports or just kind of some kind of hiking or activity because if you
Mhm.
don't move, you don't use your mitochondria to recreate energy. You don't just, we're not, humans aren't like, we can't put a battery in and just move. We have to
Yeah.
burn something to
Yeah.
create energy to have movement. So,
Right.
people who have energy, even if, you don't have, you could be an introvert and have lots of energy. You could
Mhm.
be an extrovert and have a lot of energy. But the way it comes is because those people actually move.
Yeah.
They recycle their
Yeah.
energy from food to mitochondria to ATP, and it gives them energy.
Yeah.
So the reason why that's connected to hormones, because if you don't move, you don't make your hormones.
Mhm.
For instance, thyroid. People just think, oh, the magic pill is just to take a thyroid pill. No, it's to eat right,
Yeah.
to exercise, to burn off sugar, to burn off fats so you
Yeah.
get energy,
Yeah.
So when you wake up and you burn, our hormones are optimized in the morning, like about
Mhm.
5:30. So if you wake up and you go for a walk, you burn cortisol.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
so the key thing is like you've got to move, like
Yeah.
and that gives you exercise is a probiotic. We've shown in
Mhm.
research now that people who work out really have a healthier pH balance. It's a probiotic for the gut health. So guess what? It's in the gut we make our hormones.
Right.
So that's where we make our immune system, we make our hormones. And so that's a good start. So people don't get overwhelmed. So I tell people, hormones not just come from nature, like we can get them from phytoestrogens, which means lentils, beans,
Right.
organic edamame, like they do in Japan. Hormones come from eating lots of herbs naturally, like basil,
Right.
oregano, like eating
Right.
Mother Nature foods.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, preserve our hormones. Exercise
Mhm.
preserves hormones that when women go through menopause or like PMS or postmenopausal, like
Mhm.
or postpartum, which means after birth, the way you get through that naturally is exercise. Like walking for 45 minutes to an hour
Yeah.
produces and balances hormones for
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah. Well, and the key piece, one of the key, like the key thing you're saying there that I think people need to hone in on is producing it ourselves
Yes, yes,
versus pharmaceutical, right? Now, is
absolutely.
there a time for a pharmaceutical acute issue? Yes, absolutely. But we really should not, if we're being told you're going to be on this hormone for the rest of your life, that's an issue, right?
Yes, it is. And it's because, what, another point that brings up that's a really good point is that there's bioidentical hormones, which means
Mhm.
that it's made from plants.
Mhm.
It's authentically made from plants and it binds to our own receptors, just like our body has receptors and it naturally binds to it. So there's least amount of side effects.
Right.
That is a still prescription, but it's a natural way of substituting our hormones.
Right.
As we age, we tend to lose hormones or with trauma. And
Mhm.
then there's the big pharma
Mhm.
medications. And Big Pharma makes medications from chemicals in a lab, not from
Right.
plants.
Right.
Originally, it was from plants, but now it's shifted gears.
Mhm.
So when they create a prescription, it's not customized. It's
Right.
one size fits all.
Right.
We get side effects because when a woman takes birth control, a man takes injectable testosterone. Guess what? Like if it's not bioidentical, it doesn't bind to our body's receptors,
Mhm.
so it causes side effects in the body.
Right.
So we have to think if we're going to do a substitution with a hormone, is it going to be natural or it's going to be synthetic? So that's a
Yeah.
whole nother
Right.
discussion. But I encourage people to balance your hormones as naturally as possible before
Mhm.
considering
Mhm.
taking a prescription.
And a big piece of that, and in our country especially, but Western world, is when you put on weight, it massively like messes up your hormone balance and
Yes.
production in right? Like
Yes. Absolutely,
and
Jerry.
when one
Yes.
goes too high and another goes too low because they want to balance and then they get out of balance, they get out of whack, it can snowball to other hormones, correct?
You're right. Insulin resistance, which means like our body is not burning sugar when we
Mhm.
eat it right because we're putting too much in or we're
Right.
not moving enough. We're not
Right.
moving enough. So we can't break it down as energy. So the key thing is that's why, exercise is a key movement. Just going
Mhm.
for a walk or going for a swim, gardening. The more you move, the more you balance your hormones.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of research. Like I'm from India originally, so
Mhm.
I came to this country. My parents moved here when I was 6. So I love America in the sense because it gave me our family opportunities.
Sure.
And when you look at other countries and you study, cultural differences,
Mhm.
menopause is like an American term because sadly because
Yeah.
here we don't move enough, okay, and we
Right.
put too much processed foods and sugars in, so
Mhm.
women, we feel a lot more of those effects of not having good nutrition and movement.
Yeah.
If you go to Japan, you go to Italy, you go to Greece, you go to Peru, India, like people move constantly
Oh yeah.
nonstop till they die, and they do
Mhm.
their own home cleaning, they do their own gardening, they raise their own gardens, and it just makes such a difference because you're
Yeah.
burning calories, so you have
Yeah.
to consume. And sadly here I mean, that's a whole nother thing that we can dive into is like, we're not even putting real food groups in to get the nutrition and, enough electrolytes, amino acids, minerals. So if we just moved, if we encourage people, walk it out, get
Mhm.
some fresh sun, get some fresh air, be in Mother Nature, then you will rebalance your hormones. But give
Yeah.
yourself at least 3 months minimum, because you know what? People don't realize they've got this cascade of a disaster in their body.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And so they think just in like a few weeks, just because they made an effort for 1 week or 3 weeks, it's got to make a life transformation. No, it
Yeah.
doesn't. Transformation, it's a process and it takes months and months and months and months.
Mhm. Well, and it's interesting you said it because we have some friends that um, live in Houston, and a couple years ago they had an exchange student come in from Italy, and so he spent a year with them, and so like I think it was last year they went back over to Italy to visit him,
Mhm.
and they were there for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, and of course they visited him, but then they went to some other places, and of course he wasn't in Rome, he was in a smaller town, right? Like so not as industrialized. And they made the comment, they were like, we eat bread at every meal. Like we like avoid bread because we get bloated, we get all these issues and everything. And they were like, we ate bread with every meal and we didn't have a problem. And these
Yeah.
people did it all the time. And we were like, oh yeah, but what else you well, we had to hike 3 miles to get to, the place we were going to go visit. There wasn't just jump in a car and go there. No, it's like we just walked. And they were like, yeah, so we exercised so much more. And so to your point, like, whether bread is good or bad, and of course we can get into the ingredients over there are more,
Sure.
they're better
Natural,
quality,
right?
but we don't have to avoid foods as much
No,
if
no.
we're doing the movement and the other pieces of
Yes.
the puzzle for the hormones.
Agreed, agreed. I believe in the Mediterranean diet only
Hmm.
because of science and because it's if we had we didn't use gluten here, if we didn't
Hmm.
use additives, and we would be fine here too.
Yeah.
But we can clean that up. I think that's what the Maha movement's going to help do.
Yep.
But
Yep.
um, going back to what you were saying, absolutely. Like, you know what? Here we think of walking as exercise. No, it's a part of
Hmm.
life there, and
Hmm.
along with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
People don't have gyms that they pay for.
Right.
They are actively part of life, and which just means they're participating or they're walking. So
Yeah.
even if you go to Ireland or Scotland, people go to the pub to drink. Guess what? They walk home 2.5 miles,
Right.
and then they burn off those alcohol sugars.
Mhm.
They're not going to bed with a full belly or
Yeah.
tons of alcohol in their brain and feeling depleted.
Yeah.
So you have to look at the lifestyle and even in Japan, people smoke so much,
Hmm.
right? And in the France countries in French, excuse me, the French culture, they eat a lot and drink a lot of
Hmm.
eat cheese and drink a lot of alcohol. But the French paradox is that they walk it off.
Yeah.
So why
Yeah.
why don't we just learn those simple things instead of constantly create new drugs like Ozempic and crap
Right.
to like do a shortcut? There
Yeah.
is no shortcut. There is
Right.
side effects with shortcuts.
Right. And those side effects are, you mentioned the immune system, any of the side effects, then like the immune system goes on high alert, which causes all kinds of other issues and stress issues, and our body doesn't get the opportunity to heal and regenerate when we sleep. So we may be thinking then, well, I'm sleeping 8 hours a night, or now I'm like sleeping 10 hours a night. I just can't get ahead because everything like is still it's cascading in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's not something that, I'll just sleep it off for one weekend and get it all back. And it doesn't work that way.
No, um, I think like it comes with truth and honesty. Like when I work with my clients and we sit down and I ask them like, do you prioritize how you're eating? Because nutrition is everything. It's a
Hmm.
fundamental reason why some people are really well. And you could look at their skin and tell.
Hmm.
People with healthy skin
Yeah.
eat healthy. They have a healthy gut absorption.
Right.
Okay. And that you can pick it up. You could look at people's like eyes. You could look at their just the way they move.
Hmm.
It's not in pain.
Right.
And it makes a big difference. Even though we go through pain at times of life, we can recover from it.
Hmm.
So, you're absolutely right. Like nutrition is critical, but sleep is so important. Like I do tell people to value their sleep, and not
Hmm.
everybody needs the same amount. But you
Yeah.
can sleep all you want, but if you're not eating properly, you're just going to get bigger while you sleep.
Right.
Okay. People have to realize we need to move.
Hmm.
Okay. Nothing is still in life because that means it's alive.
Yeah.
Whether it's a leaf of a plant, a grass of a blade, like the clouds, like humans, like nothing is still.
Yeah.
And hummingbirds and bees, the reason why they have a great metabolism is because they constantly move. So we have to learn from life. We have to
Right.
learn from
Yeah.
why do creatures constantly have to move? Because they're alive.
Right.
So the more we sit still and just do work, we're going to feel older.
No, it's true. It's true. Um, and one of the things that triggered a conversation I actually had yesterday with one of the elders at my church that I recently got a new Jeep, and he came over to just comment on that. And then he asked me, he's like, "You still running?" And I was like, "Yep, running a lot, you know."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, I used to run all the time, and I can't anymore because," he goes, "and it'll happen to you. Your joints, you start giving out, and your knees and your ankles and your hips, and then you're just gonna wind up not being able to do it anymore." And I was like, I was like, "Okay, thank you." But I'm like, no, it doesn't have to be that way.
Mm-mm.
Like, because I know I take care of myself,
Yes.
and by what I'm eating and in the movement that I'm doing and taking care of myself when I do have an injury that comes up,
Yes.
then like I know that my body is properly protecting itself for longevity,
Yes.
you
And,
know,
and you know
and
what? You said something that's important. Like we're human beings.
Mhm.
We have trauma, we have pain, we
Mhm.
suffer, we have injury.
Right.
And the reason why we stay healthy and exercise is so we can heal
Yeah.
from it. If you don't have if you don't bank if you don't have, like nutrients in the bank, when you have a problem, like a crisis, you're not going to
Mhm.
be able to take your money out. Just like that. You're not going to be, your body won't be able to go to memory cells and say, hey,
Mhm.
this bone or this muscle was really strong. Let's get back to that starting point. Our body is so miraculous.
Yeah.
It automatically regenerates. All we have to do is provide some rest, provide some tools,
Mhm.
extra nurturing. And guess what? Like it might take a little longer when you're 80, but like 80-year-olds in Japan or in
Yeah.
Peru, they still climb their mountains and
Right.
they're not, debilitated like we are in this country. So,
Right.
and that also brings up another thing. The way we think, our mindset,
Mhm.
it's going to pretty much project what's going to happen to us.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's too bad that people have to think so negative because there's a huge influence. Like your brain doesn't know the difference between actuality and what you
Yeah.
tell it. So if you
Yeah.
tell it, I'm going to be good, I'm going to be running, I can't wait. Like I just have patients. I just had patients that came back from Peru. And
Mhm.
before they saw me, they had joint pain, weight issues, they had energy issues. And I mean, this is unusual, but they did sell their business and they're from Alaska. They were retired and they're like,
Mhm.
Dr. Rocco, we thought we could travel the world and we're so tired now. We're
Right.
83 and 87 and we should just die because we're too tired. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's so sad. I'm like, what are you
Yeah.
going to do with your fortune? You don't even have kids. And they're like, we know, we just worked our whole life. And, and so you know what they did? They went on a cruise after like 6 months of working together. I made them walk just an hour, even though it's in
Mhm.
Alaska, it's dark, but
Mhm.
just put on your gloves, put on your hat and walk every day. And
Yeah.
they gained endurance. And guess what? They went on a cruise to Peru
Mhm.
and they just climbed Michi Picchu. I can't even
Oh
say
my
the word.
gosh.
The mountain. Yes.
Yeah.
It took them 3 weeks. It took them
Oh my
3 weeks with their
gosh.
guide. But like, can you imagine? And they
Wow.
came back with pictures. They're so excited. And they're like, but that's whatever it takes.
Mhm.
Like they were determined to like they didn't want to die. They worked their ass off their whole
Yeah.
life and
Yep.
they don't have their heart is working, their brain is working. So why shouldn't their muscles work and their
Yeah.
bones?
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
move it and
Yep.
get ready. And so it's so exciting. I mean, can you imagine? That is so
That's
like
crazy. Yeah.
motivating.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. And well, and it's funny because one of the things that I started getting into, I guess 7 years ago, was competing in the masters level track meets. And
Wow.
you
Mhm.
go to these things, and Penn Relays was just this past weekend. And if you're not familiar with that, they have people from high school, and then they have masters, and they showed videos of these 83-year-old guys doing
Wow.
100 meters
Oh my
in the
gosh.
pouring rain.
Mhm.
Like it was just pouring rain. They were like, I don't care, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, and they're running fast. They're not just like, some of them were running like sub 13 seconds for 100
Oh my
meters, which is like,
gosh.
and so it's just, to me, it's one of those things that, and I wrote this in an email to one of my clients today. It was like, who's struggling with the mental side of things. And I was like, just remember, if somebody else can do it, then it's not impossible, right? And
Right.
and that doesn't mean you can still be the first person to do it, but if somebody else has already done it, then we shouldn't let our brain go,
You should be
okay, we can't be
relieved.
able to do this.
Yes, we can do it. It might
Yeah,
take us longer, but I'm with you. I think like, we have to use people to like motivate us and be like,
mhm,
they did it. Oh my gosh, there's hope for me. Like I can do this,
right. Yep.
And that's like it's so good that you're there as a positive,
Yeah,
motivator because that's what
yeah,
people need sometimes. Just
mhm,
help putting push in the right direction instead of the wrong
yep,
direction.
yep,
Because I feel like there's so much negativity in our society
mhm,
to embrace sickness or the sick role
right.
poor me role, victim role,
Mhm,
and accountability is so important. Saying,
mhm,
what am I doing to be
yeah,
better?
yeah,
Every day, wake up and be like, okay, what can I do to change the situation? I hate it. I'm not happy. What do you,
right.
then you know what? It's in your power. So,
Yeah.
so get up and walk and don't eat that, that sugar laden food
Mhm,
and eat more. So it really starts with our decisions. We ultimately have the choice whether
mhm,
we want to heal or just keep decomposing.
right. Well, and when we make that decision, like so to tie like, okay, I made this decision, what does it really matter, right? Because I mean, a lot of people can say that, like, okay, well, I decided not to have this. Um, I made it all the way through the day, and so now, oh, maybe I can just treat myself to something because I was so good all day long, right? The hormone effect, though, of what's going on in your brain, like you can stack on, like get dopamine hits from, hey, I made a great decision. That was a good thing. I
Yes,
did a good thing. I
yes,
did a good, but then you like you can waste that whole thing by saying, I'm going to treat myself because you'll wake up the next morning going, why did I do that?
right. So you know what? You really have you could change that dopamine effect, like you just said.
Mhm.
And what you want to do is say, okay, I know this is really obviously bad for me.
Mhm.
So you have to sometimes talk out loud.
Yeah.
When someone's not around you, and even if someone is, like sometimes I say to myself, I need to get up right now. Like I really need to get up an hour earlier because I know the time change has happened and I'm not motivated, but I'm going to do it. Like when you
Right.
talk out loud, it's like telling your brain, come on, let's execute.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, sometimes, you go through a good day and you just have like that aching for something. So then eat something that's like almost close to being bad, but it's not. Like, for
Hmm.
instance, like have strawberries with honey,
Yeah.
like in the evening, have popcorn. Like, you
Right.
can still have something. We got to be reasonable, but you don't need to be I mean, you don't need to go off the deep end. Come on.
Sure.
Like,
Sure.
let's like be rational, people. Like, I feel like, we got to give ourselves concessions. And
Yep.
especially when we do something exciting and you want to celebrate, like have a glass of wine, not a bottle. Like
Right.
I'm not saying not to live life. I
Yeah.
want people to thrive. I want people to like get out there and have fun because our bodies are really like capable of like breaking down a lot of bad things,
Hmm.
But let's just balance it.
Yeah.
Let's have boundaries on that.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
you're going to try the carrot cake, then have like a quarter of it, not like the
Right.
whole piece.
Yeah.
So there's limits. No one's saying no. It doesn't have to be extreme,
Right.
but at least set some boundaries and be like, okay, I worked too hard today. I'm just going to have a half a piece, or I'm going to share it with the crew, and so that way you don't need to devour the whole thing.
Yeah. And doing it and then saying that and doing it, like like I was saying about the dopamine effect, like that balances that out versus like, okay, I'm just going to dive in and have the whole thing because that guilt piece comes in and it drives so much of our behavior in a negative way when we feel guilty about something, right?
Right. So, there's a lot of thought on that. And I really help people in that direction, like about like how you derive your pleasure makes
Hmm.
a big difference.
Hmm.
So if you derive your pleasure from like eating or from like oral satisfying, then you could do it in a different way. Like you can bake your own foods. Okay.
Right.
Like that is you have to find a healthier way of doing dopamine hits. Like,
Yeah.
people don't realize that we can convert this and it might mean a lot of introspection, like journaling,
Hmm.
writing things down.
Hmm.
Like, why do you do what you're doing? Like you
Yeah.
were trained to eat like, fried foods maybe as a young kid because
Hmm.
whenever you did good your mom took you to McDonald's. I don't know, like
Right.
whatever it was, but that's okay. It's not bad. Let's just change it. So you know what, when you go home, you make your food or you like buy something, but eat half of it. And eventually you won't eat any of it. So
Right.
you don't have to like, you need to decipher why you are connected to that and why you have an emotional connection to that habit.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
You know, people don't want to think, and it sounds crazy, but you really need to think things through and
Mhm.
ask yourself, why are you self-sabotaging?
Yeah.
Like, why? Like,
Yeah.
think about this. Like, what is the purpose of destroying your whole beautiful day
Mhm.
after you did so good, and
Right.
then you put sugar in your body that's fake?
Yep. Yep. It potentially the worst time of the day,
Yes, I
right?
know,
Because you
right?
can't, if you're doing it right before you go to bed and you don't go out and walk and you don't go out, then you're self-sabotaging your sleep and your patterns in there as well. So it's
Exactly. And
yeah.
you're like not going to sleep well because you have too much
Right.
sugar in your body. But
Yep.
sometimes people do ask me, they're like, sometimes Dr. Rocco, like I stay up late and I'm doing work and I'm eating and I just get my work done. Like, what can I do? And I'm like, then you know what? Put your headset on and go for a 20-minute walk inside your house. Go up and
Mhm.
down the
Mhm.
stairs, walk around and walk because you shouldn't go to sleep without burning off that meal.
Right.
You shouldn't eat that. But if you did, that's okay. Then you know what? Do 20 minutes of movement and at least do
Mhm.
something to contribute. Because by
Right.
the time you wake up in the morning, you're gonna be so upset with yourself. You're gonna feel bloated,
Mhm.
gross, sticky, tired.
Right. Yep. Because it is like it's not as simple as a formula of calories in, calories out. I think we all
Nope.
know that doesn't,
Mm-mm.
but there is a piece of it is like, okay, if I get a lot of calories before I go to sleep and don't burn anything off, like that is definitely a recipe for disaster.
Yes. And so that brings us along to like, people who limit the calorie restriction or fasting,
Mhm.
you instigate autophagy, which means like your body knows how to kill off the bad cancer cells
Mhm.
and knows how to kill off bad cells and create new ones. So if you go to bed full, that's not going to happen.
Right.
Okay, when we sleep, that's when our body regenerates. It takes short-term memory, puts it into long-term memory. That's
Mhm.
when we actually do lose weight because you're fasting and you're burning calories and things. So you have to think about like sleep is the most powerful time of your
Mhm.
like existence. Like half our body, I mean, our brain is alert, but our body is still it's there's when you study sleep studies, like when you see sleep studies, the brain is very active
Mhm.
and the body's also very active regenerating.
Yeah.
So if you put sugar in or you put calories in before, that is sugar calories, like
Mhm.
you're not going to go through that healthy process of recovery. So
Well, and go ahead.
yeah, so it's important to help people understand, like, don't eat late. And if you do,
Yeah.
it has to be like blueberries or green tea with no sugar or chamomile
Right.
tea.
Yeah.
That's what I think people don't understand. Like, you shouldn't eat 3 hours before bed,
Yeah.
3 hours. You shouldn't drink water 2 hours before you won't sleep.
Right.
And you shouldn't be looking at like blue light, like, right
Yep.
before bed, an
Yep.
hour before.
Yep. But one of the things I always think about when people ask me about that, I'm like, okay, well, if you've got kids, right, then think back to, okay, when there were times for sure where your toddler just, goes to bed and they sleep and you're like, they're sleeping a little longer than normal, this tonight. And, they wake up in the morning and you look at them and you're like, you look bigger.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
not just
You
like,
look huge.
you
Yeah.
look like you
Girl.
grew overnight,
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes.
because that's what the body's doing. Right?
Yes.
The body's
Yes. Yes.
growing
Oh, yes.
and so we max out at whatever our height is at some point, right? And when we continue to feed the body that way, the body goes, okay, well, what am I supposed to do with this? I'm supposed to grow somewhere, right?
Yep.
And it's like, and
No,
so you
you're
put
right.
fat on,
You're right.
and yeah, my teenage son is I think he's just about to hit another growth spurt because he's sleeping more, and I'm like, okay, here it comes, you
Yes.
know. Um,
Oh, it's so important sleep for growth and
yep,
height. And even if you don't sleep, your body will make you sleep. It'll make you tired.
yeah,
You're absolutely right. Like I have 3 kids and it's so critical that if you don't sleep, we all know it's immune system too, but
hmm
just the growth, like especially for girls, like, girls that have really bad periods and that complain about like having menses and period cycles, and it's because they don't sleep.
hmm
You're not, and sleep is critical for balancing hormones and
right,
exercise. I mean, exercise, and so is sugar. Cutting out sugar
yeah,
is so critical for hormone balance, especially
right.
during that pivotal age of teenage years.
hmm And so I think one of the biggest things that people need to hear is that there's so much that we can do to create the hormones, balance the hormones, restore them as we age,
Yes.
but understanding that that is a massive connection to our mood and our mental health.
Yes. And I am a big supplementation person with vitamin D. Like I
Mhm.
believe in vitamin D big time because I don't think people get enough
Mhm.
of it in the sun. And
Yeah.
as we age, it's harder to transform vitamin D in our skin, in our kidneys to the active form of D. So I tell
Mhm.
people to supplement, find out your number, just like your blood pressure and your cholesterol. It's so
Mhm.
critical.
Mhm.
Okay. So I tell a lot of people, absolutely, like your hormones, vitamin D is a hormone. It's not a vitamin. It's
Mhm.
actually critical to make hormones and balance our brain. Studies have shown that if someone is taking an antidepressant
Mhm.
and they do not have healthy optimal vitamin D levels for their body,
Mhm.
their medicine will not work the same. They might not
Oh,
even work.
wow.
Yeah. So it's that critical. And I just
Yeah.
did a TED talk on this and it's really sad because they don't want this information out, like
Mhm.
because it's
Yeah.
so pivotal. I
Yeah.
mean, vitamin D prevents cancer,
Mhm.
prevents respiratory diseases like viruses.
Yeah.
It prevents fungal infections. Okay. It prevents depression, anxiety,
Yeah.
autoimmune diseases, just about everything. And guess what? It's a hormone.
Right.
People, it's a hormone.
Yeah.
So how do you get it? It's really simple. Check out your level and try to make it better. And then,
Mhm.
and another thing, get outside and move. Constantly
Right.
be in the sun. The sun
Yeah.
heals us. It
Yeah.
isn't anything God created, it's to preserve life, by the way, people.
Right.
It's like they act like sun is a poison. No,
Yeah.
it's not. Because in other countries, people who are in the sun live longer.
Right.
It's vitamin
Yep.
D.
Yep.
And so yeah, I'm a really big proponent of hormone balancing with less sugar,
Mhm.
exercise,
Yeah.
sleeping.
Yeah.
When you exercise, whether you want to lift weights or you want to, go on hikes, whether you want to garden, you have to use your muscles.
Right.
Walking hills is way better. Sprinting,
Yeah.
is great.
Yeah.
If you can just do like sprinting with walking, intermittent, walking and sprinting.
Mhm.
But hormones preserves the brain and the
Mhm.
memory,
Yep.
cognition. So people ask like, why is Alzheimer's? Why are we dealing with post-COVID issues with so
Mhm.
much with recovery, immune system? Well, I wasn't a big proponent of vaccine because obviously it destroyed our immune system.
Right.
It didn't help it, it destroyed it. So,
Yep.
how do you recover from that? Exercise,
Mhm.
green tea,
Yep.
hydration, sleep. So,
Yeah.
these basic things you're not going
Mhm.
to get from it. They're cheap.
Right.
You just
Yep.
have to do them.
Yep.
And you don't have to do them all at once, but at least start with one.
Yeah.
And every month add another one. So, do
Yep.
it real slow.
Yep.
Some people don't want to move fast. That's okay.
Right. It'll compound the effect in a year from now,
Exactly.
you'll be a different person.
Yes.
And with new habits that will continue to grow. One of the things that I remember seeing when I was really getting into I've always been on the exercise side, but really getting into the nutrition side and started studying it 6, 7 years ago. Um, I remember hearing from Dr. Amen in one of the studies that he saw, and he was like, we can start to tell who's going to have Alzheimer's
Yes.
issue 40
Yes.
years before, or dementia is an issue 40 years before, because they linked constant or regular constipation to issues 40 years before. And it's like, and they go, it's easy when you dig into it and you go, well, they obviously, if you're constipated, you obviously have issues with your digestive system, which is causing issues with your immune system, which is throwing havoc to your hormones, and that compounding effect over time, over time, over time, over time, over time. And like it becomes a wave that you can't get away from.
We've found research now, like, that there's a lot of positive influences we can make on Alzheimer's.
Hmm.
Sleep is critical. People who don't sleep
Yep.
well, you're right, constipation, but that could be really, magnesium. I'm sure you use
Hmm.
a lot of it. You're a big
Yep.
advocate of it. That
Yep.
makes a huge difference. So, what we define Alzheimer's now is type 3 diabetes because
Right.
people with high levels of sugar in the brain
Hmm.
are going to get neurodegenerative diseases, whether it's
Yep.
Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, Huntington's. And the key thing is that's why it comes back to movement. People who
Right.
exercise 4 times a week, like
Yeah.
120 to 150 minutes, guess what? You're not going to get cancers and you're not going to get
Right.
Alzheimer's.
Right.
So, and if you do, guess what? You'll probably not die of the cancer. You'll probably recover pretty quickly, or it'll
Right.
be, and from Alzheimer's, I have Alzheimer's patients that haven't gotten worse, to
Yeah.
be honest with you. They haven't, because you have to give them omega-3s. The
Right.
brain is all fat.
Yep.
And the brain will shrink if you take a cholesterol lowering drug that
Yeah.
you don't need or a high
Yeah.
level.
Hmm.
That's why we have to go back to, like, why are you taking this prescription?
Hmm.
If you can
Yep.
make a lifestyle change, if you can please, like, look at the options you could do for 6 months and not
Yep.
take a cholesterol lowering drug unless you have a familial genetic disease that's going to kill you. And we see it
Right.
in your cardiovascular scans, like echoes. And, you know, my biggest thing is I graduate my patients from drugs. I know I'm a medical
Yeah.
doctor, but I teach
Yeah.
them how to change their lifestyle and
Right.
take supplements and eat right so they don't have to take a prescription that has a
Hmm.
consequence later
Right.
that can cause Alzheimer's or dementia.
Right. Because those side effects are things that they're, we've normalized side effects,
Of course.
but
Yes.
like it's something that's wreaking havoc in your body
Oh,
is what it is.
you know what? It's wrong. They play drug commercials on TV
Hmm.
constantly. So people think,
Hmm.
oh, it's a side effect. It's a side effect. Well, guess what? It's not. You're inducing that side effect by taking the
Yeah.
drug. Okay,
Yeah.
you have a choice. You don't have to take it.
Right.
And it's really alarming how many people never even just think that basic thought. They just think because
Hmm.
someone gave it to them, they have to take it.
Right.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, like it's so sad. Like that
Yeah.
is a chemical you're putting in your body. It's
Hmm.
changing everything,
Hmm.
suppressing your own hormones from working.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, I'm a big proponent of, like, of let's change this, let's flip this. What can you do instead
Hmm.
of taking that prescription? And you don't have to stop taking the drug. You could lower the drug and gradually get it off
Sure.
it takes
Yeah.
time, but it definitely can be done. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
we need to go back to that, like where we teach people that nature can heal us,
Hmm.
our own habits can heal us. You don't
Right.
have to like take a simple drug that can heal that one condition but cause like 20 others.
Right. Right. Well, and sort of like you said, like it can be a gradual. It doesn't have to be a, all at
Oh,
one
for
time
sure.
thing, right?
Yeah. Like we
And
test the levels, we see how you're
yeah.
doing, right? And then we go from there. It's not like today we start and in a week we stop. No,
Yeah.
like this isn't, we do it logically, properly, that's
Hmm.
correct for your body's composition.
Hmm.
And your body wants to be better. Your body's
Right.
waiting for you to move.
Yeah. And so approaching those other changes that same way, right? Like if you're somebody who's not been exercising, you know, don't go to the gym and try and do a full-on workout
No, no.
with 3 sets of everything in there and be on
Mm-mm.
every machine and spend 2 hours in there
And
constantly
get injured.
moving, like, because you won't be able to move the next day,
That's right.
right? And so it's that, it- you know, go for a 5-minute walk. Then, the next day, oh, hey, do a 5-minute walk again because 10 minutes over 2 days is better than you've done, right?
Yes.
It doesn't have to
Yes.
be like, oh, I went 5, I have to go 10 the next day, or I have to, it's that gradual effect, and then you'll naturally start to do more. And one of the things I've seen with coaching people is that if I start with nutrition and help them start feel better through eating better things, you naturally start to go, I think I need to exercise,
Yes.
because your
I
body
feel
starts to
that.
go like, okay, you're giving me the right stuff. Now I need to do something else,
Yep.
and vice the other way doesn't always work, because we can exercise and then like start thinking like, oh, well, I burned off these calories. I can have something, whatever it is.
Right. I need to
Right.
eat more now.
And that doesn't, it doesn't always help us.
Right. And that's another thing. Men, they can, because I'm in functional medicine and I do a lot with metabolism.
Hmm.
Men can lose weight without having to gain weight
Yep.
first. Women do. Women actually gain weight before they lose weight,
Hmm.
and it's because we hold on to fat because our bodies are designed to have children. So
Sure.
so what you have to do is you have to stop comparing yourself to people and work on
Hmm.
your own. And let's just like that's one of the things that we have to work on is compare yourself to your body like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, and not your spouse that's like
Hmm. Yeah.
running and you're still walking blocks.
Right.
So it's
Yep.
okay. So, but I know, it's such a positive, exciting thing that's happening in our country right now.
Yeah.
We're going to see changes happening slowly. So we have
Right.
to move slowly too, because
Yeah.
I mean, I always tell people like, look at like a caterpillar, it turns into a beautiful butterfly. It's a pleasant surprise. And you have to
Mhm.
think that's the way you're going to be. Like,
Yep.
you know what? You're in a difficult place right now. You don't imagine how glorious your energy can get and how
Yeah.
great you can feel, but you have to do the work for it. You have to go
Mhm.
slow and steady and do it.
Yep.
And you'll just transform and feel so good. I tell people give themselves a year or two. I mean, the truth
Yeah.
is, you cannot just flip it. Your body has so many bad habits and it's been exposed to so many chemicals and toxins.
Mhm.
Like we have to just be patient and kind to our
Yep.
bodies.
Yep. Well, and as you go through that, you're gonna hit different obstacles that are gonna come up, like you just said, because you've been putting so many different things in there that you can start and be on a path, and all of a sudden, everybody knows you hit this plateau,
Right.
and it's like that plateau is your body telling you, hey, either we've got to change something or we got to deal with something that's in here because
It's,
it's
yep.
it's holding us back,
Yeah.
and that's where it's like getting somebody else's opinion and getting somebody else's input on like
Yes.
what's really going
Yes.
on,
Yes.
can help so much because that frustration piece can be real when you hit that
Yes,
plateau.
it is. It is, especially when people are trying really hard and
Mhm.
they're frustrated and they're just
Yeah.
about ready to give up and just start eating everything bad
Yeah.
again.
Yep.
I tell people like, when they get to that place, you have to think about, oh my gosh, where was I a year ago?
Mhm.
Where was I like 3 months ago when I started? And if
Yep.
you're in a better place, then you should be tap yourself on the back and be like, okay, you know what? Tomorrow's a new day.
Right.
Let's look at like because red light therapy, like sometimes
Mhm.
like methylene blue, like there's so many other things that
Yeah.
people can look into, like or think about, like or to take it up a notch.
Mhm.
Maybe people are not realizing they can't eat dairy. A lot of people eat dairy. They
Right.
do this keto thing now and paleo, and people are just like obsessed with like cheese. And I'm like, do you know like
Mhm.
that's really dangerous for your heart? It's high fat
Yeah.
cholesterol. Okay, it's
Yep.
not omega 3, and
Yeah.
it's a lot of omega 6 seed oil stuff. And
Mhm.
are you eating organic cheese? So there's like a lot to look into. Like write
Yeah.
out or journal, because journaling helps you figure out where you might
Mhm.
be screwing up a little bit or where
Yep.
you need to be better.
Yeah. And where are those things that like you're not truly conscious of that you're still doing because they were habits
Right,
that like
right.
you think you got rid of, but they're still there,
Yeah, right. I know. And so
Um,
we just need to talk about it, bounce it off someone
yep.
or even ourselves.
Yep. So, Dr. Rocco, I want to be, you know, conscious of your time and give us how can we get your book? How can we connect with you? How can we follow what you're doing? And for people that want to be able to get more input on like getting help from you.
I'm in Southern California. I
Hmm.
have a practice, functional, preventative, regenerative medicine. And longevity to me isn't like living 120 years, is about quality of life,
Hmm.
right? It's about people,
Yep.
we do get injured, we get traumatized, and then we have to heal from it. That's longevity, being
Right.
able to recover.
Yeah.
So I talk a lot about that in my book. It's called Growing Younger, restore your energy, hormones, and sex drive, because
Hmm.
I feel like as we grow, as we age, we gain a lot of like life lessons, but we don't
Hmm.
always gain our health with it. We lose
Hmm.
some of it because
Yeah.
of that. So
Yeah.
it's how to restore it as naturally as possible.
Yeah.
And you can get it at Barnes, you can get it at any of the, Amazon, whatever. I
Yeah.
just put it out on my own because
Okay.
I felt like sometimes you don't have to see a physician. You know what? To be
Right.
honest, I love medicine. I do it because I truly enjoy it. And it's phenomenal that you can make that impact. But there's so many different ways you can make an impact, whether it's
Hmm.
a book or like with your podcast,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So I want people to have those other venues other than just having to come see me as a patient, because
Right.
so that's an option too. They could look, Gowri Rocco, drgowrirocco.com. That's my website. But I encourage people to start off with reading
Yeah.
and read the book
Yeah.
and just because they'll connect with it. And it's I wrote it for people. I wrote it for my patients because I wanted them to understand English,
Mhm.
not have to like decipher and look up things in a medical textbook. So
Right.
I want to
Yeah.
share my knowledge that I learn, and I want to share it with people because that's how you help people and impact people, is
Yep.
to learn together.
Yep. Well, and one of the things that I think it was Simon Sinek that said, I heard him say, like, we've gotten away from reading books because we've got, the technology to do videos and podcasts and all the things, and they're great and they have their place. But he's like, if you take a book from somebody, they spent years, they put all their knowledge into it.
Yes,
Like it
yes,
is the
yes.
shortcuts,
Yeah, it
you
is. It's
know?
my golden pearls. And you know what? It
Yeah.
was before ChatGTP that I did it. That's another
Yeah.
thing I can't
Hmm.
stand is because I feel like, people don't realize like there's nothing that's humanism cannot be replaced. I use
Right.
AI tools, I get it. But what I mean is like to really, you don't want to just, feed something and have it chew it out and spit it out
Yep.
to you. You
Yep.
want a human's connection, empathy,
Hmm.
compassion in it. And I think that's what medicine, that's what healing is. We are all caretakers
Hmm.
and providers. And, you have to have that humanism in it. And I think
Yeah.
in my book, like I talk about that, like it's important to think about loneliness as we age.
Right.
It's important to think about prayer. It's important to think about just those some things like humor or orgasms, like,
Hmm.
or like, these are all significant and people
Yeah.
don't address it enough. And that all impacts our hormones.
Yeah. It does. So, well, Dr. Rocco, thank you so much for
Yes,
being a
thank
guest. It's been
you.
so
Oh, it was my
fun.
pleasure. Thank
And
you.
and I mean, I know it's helped people because there's so much insightful stuff that you've got and you've been able to put out. And so I applaud you for that, and just keep doing what you're doing because it's great.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate so much, Jerry.
Thanks for checking out the Confidence Through Health podcast. Please subscribe, post a review, share this episode with those you love who need a little extra help with their health journey. Visit allinhealthandwellness.com to learn more about the coaching programs that I provide. All episodes are produced by the Social Media Cowboys, your source for all online marketing needs. Go to socialmediacowboys.com for more information.